Hey, this is Mike from the Run Testers, and in this video we're going to be giving you our first run review of the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. It's fair to say a firm favourite with the team. Now first we'll take you through what's new and different from the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, and then myself, Nick and Tom will give you our early thoughts on what we think about the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 so far. Here's everything you need to know about the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. The Nitro 3 launches on January 24th and lands in stores and on puma.com from February 1st. Price-wise, it jumps up slightly from £105 to £110 in the UK. So while it's pricier, it does remain an affordable cushioned shoe. Weight-wise, our UK size 8 weighed in heavier at 265 grams compared to 259 grams for the same sized Velocity Nitro 2. Has a 10mm drop like the 2, with the stack height jumping up a couple of millimeters at both the forefoot and the heel. The insole remains a dual density one with nitro foam and the EVA based Pro foam there to balance out the responsiveness of the nitro foam and offer some control and stability. It still uses mesh in the upper, but it's now lined with Puma's Power Tape, which has appeared on some of its race shoes, and cushion options like the Forever Run Nitro offer more structure and support in the upper. Down below you'll find a Puma grip outsole with an adjusted pattern that's designed to offer strong grip across different surfaces. Puma says the Velocity Nitro 3 is built to hold up for up to 500 miles.
Fit for me in the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. I'm a size 8 in the UK, this is a size 8. I found it to be very comfortable, but what I would say is that there is a lot of space in the forefoot for me, so more than I'd normally have between my big toe and the end of the shoe. I didn't have an issue with it. I'd probably stay to my size in this shoe, but there is quite a bit of extra space. It also has quite a wide forefoot as well, so there's plenty of space around the side of the forefoot, so if you have very narrow feet, you might really notice that. It was absolutely fine for me, and I managed to get a nice lockdown fit pretty easily in this shoe. The new upper I really like. It's very comfortable, it feels quite breathable, but also it feels quite structured as well. So when you tie down the laces, it feels like it's in a very, very good position. And there's loads of padding around the ankle collar and heel. I had no slip or anything on the run that I just did.
So fit for me, I've had mine in a UK size 8. I've had the Velocity Nitro, the Velocity Nitro 2 in a UK size 8. I've always found the shoes a touch long, and I do think that kind of trend continues with Velocity Nitro 3. So I think there is an argument you could go half a size down in this shoe based on that first run and what I'm seeing so far. Now, I didn't have any issues out on the run, but ultimately I think you're getting a good amount of space up front of the toes, and that kind of extends out to the size of the foot as well. Elsewhere, generally pretty good. You're definitely getting a little bit more kind of, padding in the heel collar here compared to the previous shoe. The laces have changed. The tongue is similar to the Nitro 2. The upper, which I'll get into more, has definitely a more kind of sucked in kind of feel to it compared to the upper on the Velocity Nitro 2. So you're definitely getting something that I think holds a lot more generally throughout the shoe. As I said, my UK size 8, I was fine, but I do think, you could argue going half a size down in this shoe, just because I think you do get quite a lot of kind of volume up front of the toes. It does feel a touch long overall.
So the fit of the Velocity Nitro 3 is great for me in my normal running shoe size. It's the same size I had in the Velocity Nitro 2. Now, some people found that was a bit of a narrow shoe. I don't think anything has changed here on that front. I think if you found that narrow, you'll probably find the Velocity Nitro 3 narrow, but I enjoy the fit of it. I think it's got a slightly more dialed in fit around the heel. The padding has been changed in the way it almost cradles the Achilles from each side compared to the Velocity Nitro 2, and that works quite nicely for me. Enjoyed that on the run today. So yeah, all round, very happy with the fit of the Velocity Nitro 3 in my normal running shoe size.
So my first run in the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, I have just been out to do an hour and 15-minute long run, which was included 5 sets of 8 minutes at my half marathon pace. I wouldn't normally use this shoe to do that, but I needed to do a first run review of the shoe, so I thought it'd be a good chance to test it out over different paces and over a longer session. So over the course of that run, I ran 24 kilometers, and I found it to be a very comfortable shoe. I don't notice any major differences from the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. It still feels pretty similar to me. I know it's got more nitro foam in it, but I didn't really notice that out on the run. Still feels like a pretty solid daily shoe to me. Over the easy sections, it felt fine, very comfortable, just plenty of foam in there. Just enough foam to feel cushioned, but not enough to feel too bulky. So very good at the easier bits of that run. When I picked up the pace, so the 8-minute sets at my half marathon pace were at about 4 minute to 4 minute 10 kilometers, which is quite fast for me. And normally, if I'm out doing that pace, I would use one of my carbon plate shoes, or I would use something like the Hoka Mach 5. It wasn't great at dealing with those paces, but it was okay. I definitely wouldn't use this shoe for that sort of run normally. I'd probably use this more likely for daily runs where I may be running at a consistent pace of around 4:30 to 5 minute kilometers, or slower than that. I think it'd be absolutely fine if you're just doing a nice easy run or a recovery run, but definitely not a shoe that skews massively towards faster training sessions. If you look at something like the Hoka Mach 5, that is a daily shoe that actually really works well for faster training. I used Hoka Mach 5 for a lot of my marathon training previously when I wanted to do a faster interval session or something like that and didn't want to use a carbon plate shoe. I would say that this moves a little bit more towards that easy and daily shoe world. Probably wouldn't go too fast in this shoe, but it was fine at it. If you were going to buy one pair of shoes, if maybe you're a beginner or you're just somebody that just wants one pair of shoes and you want good value, I think it's a good option. It's comfortable. You could probably run any distance in this shoe and it would feel absolutely fine. But if you're really looking at getting a shoe that's going to be able to tackle those faster paced efforts, I just don't think this shoe's got it in it. But it's a solid, nice, comfortable daily shoe, and I really enjoyed that first run. It was absolutely fine and had no issues at all. I think it was perfect. The outsole, again, say this about every single Puma shoe that comes out. Puma Grip, fantastic outsole on this, very similar to the previous versions. Loads of rubber on it, really grippy rubber. It wasn't that wet today and it wasn't that slippy, so I didn't really get to test it out over that, but it feels absolutely fine. Good coverage, no noticeable wear or anything from that run, so great solid outsole on this shoe still.
So into that first run on the London Marathon training plan today was a 13-mile run at 8:30 minute mile pace. So it felt like the ideal type of run to put the Velocity Nitro 3 to the test. Now, the first thing I definitely noticed on this shoe when I was out running with it is the upper just feels different. Now, when you compare it to Velocity Nitro 2, which I would say the upper, I would describe that as kind of being comfortable, snug, more hugging in terms of the experience. This kind of really wraps closer to your foot and really kind of locks things in a lot nicer, I think, in comparison. Now, the other thing I would say is from a ride point of view, I think there's kind of very similar traits to the first two shoes. You're getting something that's not super soft, but I think, that Nitro foam does give some of that kind of softer, responsive feel. And then you've got that EVA kind of Pro foam there to kind of, harden things up, offer a little bit more protection, a little bit more control here. Now, what I would say is you still get that bounce. I think when I pick the pace up in places, I do get that enjoyable bounce. I think there's a nice smooth kind of feeling in that ride as well too. That's what I felt when I was running a little bit quicker in it. Well, I definitely noticed a lot more. You do feel that foam a lot more in the hill, that kind of Pro foam here, which tells me, compared to the Velocity Nitro 2, that this, it just feels more supportive, more protected, I think more stable in general. That's definitely something that I felt in that run. I do still think you get that kind of nicer feeling at more tempo speeds, but ultimately you do notice, or I did notice, that hill a lot more when I dropped back on it for, on my hill during that run. So that's something I definitely think is a difference in terms of the experience of running in the Velocity Nitro 3 to the Velocity Nitro 2. But in general, at that pace, it felt pretty good for me. It felt very similar to the first two shoes in terms of that overall feeling, that overall ride. I think what we've looked for from the Velocity Nitro have all kind of praised, I still think you're getting it here. But I do think the upper feels different. I do think you're getting a lot more foam here, or you're noticing that foam a lot more at the hill, which I think creates something more stable. I'm not sure if, I think, I absolutely prefer it to what I felt on the Velocity Nitro 2, which, it probably isn't as stable, but I do think still offered a generally at the same ride, and I think a protective ride as well too. But this does feel like maybe it's going to be a bit more supportive, and did feel a little bit more supportive on that longer run overall. Outsole wise, now the pattern has changed, but ultimately there's a lot of rubber here, and the Puma Grip kind of outsoles in general have been very solid across their shoes. I don't think it's going to feel any different here. I was mainly on roads. It's pretty dry out there, pretty cold, so absolutely fine. But I wouldn't hesitate going a little bit kind of on lighter trails in here, because there's a lot of rubber here, and I think while the pattern has changed, I think ultimately the grip's going to feel pretty generally the same as the Velocity Nitro 2. So yeah, outsole seems pretty solid, very similar to the previous shoe. The ride definitely feels similar as well, but I do think you're feeling that foam, or that pro foam, that harder kind of EVA foam in the hill a little bit more, I would say. And then you're getting an upper that I think is more supportive overall and kind of really kind of pulls in against your fit a lot more than the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. So a solid first run, I think, overall, but there are definitely some changes. I think, are they good changes? Are they bad changes? I'll get into that in my initial verdict.
Just heading off to do first run in the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 now. Obviously excited to use this shoe, as a very big fan of the Velocity Nitro 2. It doesn't seem like Puma's changed a whole lot about the shoe, just adding that little bit more nitro foam in to raise the stack height a little bit. So looking forward to getting out in them today. Just doing a nice relaxed 90 minutes today to round off a fairly easy week of running after being quite ill early on in the week. So looking forward to getting out in them and seeing how they feel. So I've gone for about 13k now, and truthfully, not much to report, and that's a good thing, really. The Velocity is still the Velocity, still got that comfort there, still got that nice balanced platform, fairly nimble, not too heavy, good amount of cushioning, a little bit of extra cushioning there. I haven't really noticed the difference too much yet, but I've got another 30-40 minutes of the run left, so that'll come into play there. But all round, just enjoying life in the Velocity Nitro again. It's still a really, really great shoe. So all done in the first run in the Velocity Nitro 3, did around a half marathon, then a little bit more. Chicken is pecking me, unbelievable. And it was a very enjoyable first run. Yeah, the shoe still feels really good to me, still feels like a lot is very much the same as with the Velocity Nitro 2, and that's a good thing. You've got that really balanced feel to it. It's not too heavy, it's not too big, it's not overly cushioned, but it is comfortable. It delivers a little bit if you want to try and up the pace. I did the last 3k of the run today with a little bit of pick up in speed to around steady pace, and it felt good for that, but still nice and comfortable. No forefoot discomfort. You know, it's a 10mm drop shoe, and you know, sometimes snapping through you can get a bit of forefoot pain. I get with some shoes. I even had it with the Asics Gel Nimbus 26 recently, but just don't get it with this shoe. It's just, yeah, a really good all-round shoe. Like when I got home, I then did a little run around the block wearing the Velocity Nitro 3 on one foot and the Velocity Nitro 2 on the other foot, and I don't think there is a drastic change here. Like the Velocity Nitro 2, one of the differences I noticed, it feels like it's got more relaxed upper, but the fit is a bit more dialed in, especially at the heel of the shoe on the Velocity Nitro 3, but getting a lot of the same stuff here, but a little bit extra foam, which might sway some people into viewing it more as a cushion shoe for their needs, but I don't think it's a huge change in the level of comfort underfoot. And all round, just, yeah, feels like a really strong shoe in exactly the same way the Velocity Nitro 2 did. So yeah, very pleased, very enjoyable, looking forward to using it a lot more in the coming weeks.
Early verdict on the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 is that it's pretty much more of the same. It's still a solid, great daily shoe. It's still comfortable. It still has a nice level of foam in it. It's not too heavy. It's just balanced enough. It's not massively soft, so you can actually do a little bit of versatile running in it. And it's a shoe that probably would fit into most people's rotations, or if you're just looking for one shoe that ticks off a lot of your different daily runs. Only thing I would say about it is that I think that shoes like the Hoka Mach 5, even though it's a little bit more expensive, is a better option for this when it comes to versatility. I would definitely pick up the Hoka Mach 5 as if I was going to get one shoe and I wanted to do faster sessions and easy runs and things like that in it. Although I would say this probably is a little bit better at those easy runs. I think the cushioning is just a little bit more substantial and a bit more noticeable when it comes to comfort on the run. But for the price, I think it's still a great value shoe. I think it's well worth picking up if you're just looking for a great daily trainer and you don't want to spend loads and loads of money. I think it probably competes with shoes that are a lot more expensive than it. And it's a good option as well if you are somebody that wants a daily shoe and you don't want to go for one of these really big max cushioning options that are available at the moment, because it's a little bit more balanced than that and doesn't feel like you've got loads of shoe on your foot. So yeah, really successful first run, and pretty much more of what I've experienced in the previous two Puma Velocity Nitro shoes. Just a really good solid daily shoe.
Early verdict is that the Velocity Nitro 3 is going to please a lot of people the same way the Velocity Nitro 2 did. It really is the embodiment of this kind of mid-range, mid-cushion trainer you get from lots of brands that's reasonably good value, and pretty well cushioned, but not overly so. So compared to things like the Pegasus, the Supernova Rise from Adidas, the Hoka Clifton, the Asics Nova Blast even, all shoes that sit below the very, very cushioned shoes in the brand's range and that can handle a range of training. And for me, the Velocity Nitro 2 was always kind of the best of those trainers, and I feel like the Velocity Nitro 3 follows on in exactly the same way, in that it's a fairly lightweight shoe, but it's got a great outsole, it's got a good amount of cushioning, it's comfortable, and just can deliver in lots of different ways. So looking forward to getting out in it again, doing some more running, but overall that first run suggests the Velocity Nitro 3 is going to be a nice solid update in the Velocity Nitro 2 that sticks to most of the same principles. I will say early impressions would be that if you now go and see the Velocity Nitro 2 for 50 quid, then that would be a great deal. I wouldn't say you have to go and get the new version of the shoe. I don't think there's been a drastic change here, just that little bit of extra cushioning and, it's like I say, slightly more dialed in fit at the back of the shoe. But all round, I enjoyed the first run a lot, and I think it's another really strong shoe from Puma to sit in this training range as a very practical, all-round, versatile shoe.
So some initial thoughts on the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, and what I would say is I feel like it's a solid update, or feeling like a solid update to the Velocity Nitro 2. I think what's important here is that Puma hasn't kind of entirely ripped up the script in terms of what the shoe is capable of and the types of runs it's designed for, keeping the elements, I think, from the previous two shoes that I think really worked and didn't need to be tinkered with. So I'm thinking about things like the ride, the outsole, the general overall fit as well. And I said, you know, just being capable of running easy and more up-tempo runs in this shoe. I definitely think there are some differences that are going to change the experience. The first thing being the upper, where it's definitely more supportive, more structured than the Velocity Nitro 2, which, to be honest, I quite like the comfort and the more snug feeling upper on that shoe, but this definitely feels more structured and more, I would say, supportive overall. And you're definitely getting more in the heel in terms of that kind of, you know, extra bit of foam. I think you're getting something that's more kind of stable overall, just protective as well too, which makes it, I think, a bit better suited for those longer runs. But ultimately, I think the experience and the types of runs they're designed for are still the same here that they were on the Velocity Nitro 2. Now, it definitely reminds me of one other shoe, and that's the Saucony Axon 3, which, like this shoe, you know, it's not massively soft in terms of a cushion shoe, but I think that kind of, it still has that bouncy ride. I think it has that kind of nice supportive upper as well too, and it's a similar price. I think it's a bit more difficult to get hold of at the moment. I think it's kind of sold out on Saucony's website at the moment, but that is another shoe that I think kind of sits well with the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. And I think in terms of price, it's jumped up a little bit, but I think ultimately what we've seen from Puma Velocity Nitro shoes previously, the previous generations, they have dropped down in price pretty quickly. And I think even now as it stands, it's feeling like it's going to be another affordable cushion shoe to look at. If the trend of the price drop happens with the Velocity Nitro 3, that's going to make it even more attractive. So yeah, I think feels to me a solid update so far. I've had a good first run with this shoe. I think generally, the changes that Puma has made to the Velocity Nitro 3 from the 2, I think mostly positive. The only thing I think probably is that I think you lose a little bit in the kind of snugness and comfort of the upper, and obviously it's gone up a little bit in weight as well too. But I don't think you massively, I'm not sure I'm going to massively notice that in my runs going forward. So yeah, initial thoughts on the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, feeling like a pretty solid update so far. Okay, so there you have it, our initial thoughts on the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 for myself, Nick and Tom. Now, obviously, plenty more testing to do before we get to a full review. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions about the shoe, and more importantly, other shoes you want to know how it compares to, then do let us know in the comments. As always, like and subscribe, hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos, and there's going to be a lot of new videos on the way, a lot of big launches. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned, because we've got a lot more coming up, and yeah, see you for the next Run Testers video.